Welcome to this session of the Ancestral Healing Summit. I'm Lisa Bonis, your host, and my guest for this session is Lisa Miron. Our topic today is honoring the unborn members of our family system. Lisa Miron is a healer, life coach, speaker, and family constellations facilitator. For the past 15 years, she's been helping clients from many parts of the world, and she uses various healing methods, including family constellations, coaching, EFT, NLP, meditation, Centaura system energy healing, channeling, and Reiki. And she's here with us today. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
I am too, because this is such an important topic that I haven't really heard anybody discuss, but it affects all, or at least most of us, because over the generations, surely at least one of our grandmothers have suffered a miscarriage or had an abortion. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's start out with, how do uncompleted pregnancies via abortion, miscarriages, et cetera, how do those affect our lives today?
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit first about the systems to be able to answer that question. So first, we are not independent from each other. We belong to systems. And the most important system is our family system. And in the family system, everybody belongs. And everybody belongs from the moment of conception. So from the moment of conception, we start connecting to everybody in the family system, and we connect to everyone. And we start connecting in different ways. We connect to the wisdom, we connect to the love, to the blessing, to the information. And we also connect to the parts that are not healed yet, to the blocks, to the emotions, to the trauma, to whatever our ancestors or members of the family system were not able to deal with. So what happens is that we start connecting to all of this, and we start to take the responsibility and the choice of taking on whatever spending on healing in the family system. So the reason that we do this is because we are so grateful for our life that we want to give back. This gift is so important to us that we want to give back to the ones that were able to give us this gift. So out of this gratefulness, out of this love, out of this wanting to give back, we decide to help heal the family system and to take on what's pending for the system to heal. And there's another reason as well. And the other reason is because we want to survive. And in order to survive, we need to belong. Belonging, it's connected to survival. You know, if we're thrown out outside when we're born, we're not going to be able to survive. And this goes back to when we were living in caves. In order for everybody to survive, we need to belong. Everybody needs to be part of the system. So we want to belong. And in order to belong, we connect to our ancestors and everybody in the family system. And it's a little bit like, you know, if you were not able to enjoy life because you were not able to have health, well, I'm not going to allow myself to have health either, because I'm going to do it the same way as you did, because I want to be part of you. If in my system, we're not able to have abundance, success, well, you know, this is what we do. I want to belong. I want to be one of them. I want to survive. So if this is what it is, then this is what we do. If we fail at love, then, well, that's the way it is. And of course, I say it this way, but all of this is unconscious. We have no idea. We're making these vows, these promises, these contracts, these decisions, that we're going to suffer the same way as our ancestors, that we're carrying their patterns. We're doing it out of love, out of gratefulness, and in order to survive. But we're not aware that we're making these decisions. And when we have a vow, a promise, a decision that we're going to do it the same way as our ancestors, and this blocks our life, we call that an entanglement. We have many entanglements with many members of the family system. So we take on their emotions, we take on their trauma, their patterns, and then we find ourselves blocked in our life because suddenly we don't know why we always fail at our jobs and we're doing the best that we can. Or maybe we have this pattern that keeps on repeating, that out of nothing, suddenly we failed in relationships and we don't know why. So all the moments in our life where we feel that we're repeating patterns, where we're stuck, where we try to do things differently and we always come back like at the same thing, where we feel that we're not living our life, like we don't belong, we're out of place. All these situations usually come because we have an entanglement with somebody else of the family system, and unconsciously we're doing this for them. So that through us being able to work through that situation, we're able to heal it. And when we are able to heal it, it connects back to our ancestor, to the system, to the field, and it helps the healing. So the thing is that it's not ours. So then we may have an addiction and we may be depressed. And we try to work with the situation in our life, but we get stuck and we don't know why. We have, joy, we have loved ones, we have a house, we have a work, and we don't know why are we at the same time depressed or feeling that something is missing. And it's because we're carrying, for example, the grief of my grandmother because she had a terrible loss in her life. And then it's overwhelming, this grief, because it's not mine and I cannot attach it to this situation in my life. So I just feel this overwhelming grief that I don't know where it's coming from. So it's very hard to let go. And this is why these situations are so difficult for us to deal with in our lives. So we have the family system, we have all these entanglements, we have all these connections that we're helping heal through our experiences. And as I said, everybody belongs in the family system and it's part of survival. It's part of survival of the system. So we have entanglements as well with the excluded ones, with the judged ones, with the forgotten ones, with the criticized, with the judged ones. And we make entanglements with them because everybody belongs. Everybody's part of the family system. So we make entanglements and we start having like the same characteristics, the same patterns, in a way of saying someone with these characteristics is missing from the family system. And just like I'm here, I belong, this person as well. And through me, I'm honoring and respecting this person by carrying the same burden as this person had. So just to give you an example, maybe I have an uncle that was hurting everybody. Maybe he stole the money of the family. He was always with addictions and nobody wants to talk about him. So from the moment of conception, we take these entanglements from the moment of conception to the first years of our lives, usually up to the 2 years, sometimes up to 5 years. But usually at that time, we have already made all these vows, promises, decisions. We already have these entanglements. We already made like the plan for our lives unconsciously. We have no idea about it, but it's already there. So we have all these decisions from the moment of conception. And if I have this connection with my uncle, then I'm going to start having addictions. I'm going to start having problems with money, with relationships. And in a way, I'm saying someone with these characteristics is missing. Someone with these situations is part of the system and is excluded. And I'm honoring and respecting this person by carrying the same situations of why he was excluded. So now coming back to the part of miscarriages and abortions and the ones that were not able to live, everybody belongs from the moment of conception. This means that all the miscarriages and abortions are part of the family system, and they need to have their place. They need to be honored, respected, remembered. And these are the ones that are forgotten the most. And they're forgotten because this is part of the culture. If we have a baby and the baby is born and this baby is not able to live and dies 1 week after, we're going to have a grieving process. We're going to have a funeral, this whole process that we're able to deal with our loss and people understand. But if the baby is not able to be born 1 month before the due date, it's like nothing. It's like we are suffering in silence. It's like it didn't exist. And usually traumas are not the experience itself. When we have a trauma because of how we lived that experience. And when we live a painful experience of our life in silence, like in secret, alone, where we feel alone, where we're not able to move through those situations and be able to grieve and to let go, then it becomes a trauma. Then it becomes something blocked in the system. Then it becomes like an energy that's there, like heaviness. So we don't know what to do with miscarriages and abortions because nobody does anything in our culture. We don't, so there's no process, there's no way of honoring and respecting and giving them their place in their family system. So what happens is that we have a lot of entanglements with abortions and miscarriages in the family system because they don't have their place. They're not remembered, they're not honored, they're not respected. And something that's important here is that we're not judging and criticizing. Through all the work that we're doing here in the honoring and respecting of our ancestors, we let go of judgment and criticism. We're not here deciding what's wrong, what's right. We are honoring and respecting everybody, understanding that everybody's doing the best that they can, or everybody did the best that they could with their own entanglement, with their own traumas, with their own situations, with information they had. So maybe they wanted help and they couldn't get help. Who knows? So we're not here deciding what's right or wrong. We're not judging. We're not criticizing. We're honoring and respecting everybody, their decisions. However, we're also giving the place to everybody in the family system, including the abortions and miscarriages, the ones that were not able to live. So what happens is that when there's an abortion and miscarriage, and there are a lot, around 10 years ago, I read a study that said that like 1/3 of the pregnancies do not end up on a baby being born. So if we think about it and all our ancestors, there's definitely a lot of babies that were not able to be born. So there are a lot. So what happens is that there's several ways that we connect to them. So we can have first a connection, an entanglement with the mother or the father, but it's usually with the mother. And if she was not able to deal with the grief of the loss, then we carry the grief for her. And then we can be depressed in our life. We can be like having this heaviness, it's hard, this is difficult, I'm not able to enjoy life because of this heaviness that I think and that I think that I have, that I feel. And this could be connected because we're carrying the grief of a mother that was not able to deal with the loss of a baby. So that's one way of how this affects our life. So another way is that we can have an entanglement with a baby that was not able to live. So if we are entangled with a baby that is not able to live, we're entangled with somebody dead in the family system, with somebody that was not able to enjoy life. So then we don't allow ourselves to enjoy life. It's like this entanglement connects us with somebody that's not in life, that was not able to enjoy life. I mean, I kind of feel like the heaviness when I'm talking about it. So if I'm in that position, I'm not able to say yes to life, to all that life can give to me, because I feel this part of me not being fully alive. So then why would I be able to enjoy all that life can give to me if I really don't even have the energy to? So this can happen when I have an entanglement with a baby that was not able to live. And there's a third way of how this affects our lives. And this is when we are not in our position, because there is someone in front of us, a miscarriage or an abortion, that came before us, and this unborn baby does not have their place. So for example, maybe I'm the first one in my family, but my mom had, let's say she had a miscarriage. So that would mean that I'm the second one. I am not the first one. And positions are important in the family, positions and roles. So if I'm the second one in the family, I have certain energy, I have certain roles. And if I understand this, then I know that somebody came before me. And if I'm in the place of the first one, if I'm in the place of that one that was not able to live, then I'm in the place of someone that, again, did not have life. Then again, I'm being pulled down and it's not my place. So that affects me because I'm never going to be okay in my life. I'm always going to be looking for something else. I'm not comfortable where I am. I really have lots of friends, but I never feel like I'm part of them. I don't like where I'm living. I'm always looking for something else, I have this feeling of being out of place and always looking for something else and never really finding my place in life, in my work, with my friends, with my house, with my community. So this feeling usually comes from not being in our place in the family system, but from being in the place of somebody else. And an example that I was thinking about that gives us a clear idea of this situation, and it's Van Gogh. I don't know if you know a little bit of his story of the painter. So before he was born, 1 year before he was born, his parents had a baby. I think that the baby was born, and I don't know if it was a stillborn or died just after the baby was born. And they actually named that baby Van Gogh, the same name. So then 1 year later, they have this other baby, and they actually put the same name as the previous one that had died. And when you think about his life, he always struggled to find his place. He was never like okay where he was. He was having all these difficulties, all this struggle, so this not being able to really enjoy his life and be successful. So this is a clear example. I mean, this is not a miscarriage because the baby was actually born, but still, this is what happens. This is the clear example of someone not being in their place and struggling in life and not being able to enjoy life. So, and there's one thing that it's important, because the way that we heal all these miscarriages and abortions, all these entanglements that we have in the family system, is honoring and respecting everybody, giving them their place. As I said in the beginning already, we don't judge and criticize. We're not deciding what others should have done previously in their lives. We're honoring, respecting their decisions, giving them their place, and saying thank you, especially to our ancestors, because thanks to them, we have our life. And then we decide to leave the past in the past and connect to our present moment and enjoy our life. And through this decision of enjoying, it connects to our ancestors, and they are also being able to release. And I have a lot of clients that come with me when they're working these aspects in their lives, and they say, should I ask my mom and my grandmother if they had an abortion or a miscarriage? And the answer there is no. We can still heal this without knowing. And I'm going to say why the answer is no. But first, I want to explain that if we have entanglements with others in the family system, even if we are adopted, when we're adopted, most of the entanglements that we have come from our biological parents and system, because that's who gave us our life. And then out of gratefulness, we start taking on things from our adoptive parents. But most of the issues that we have come from our biological parents. So when we have entanglements, the information is there. If we have an entanglement with someone in the family system that's blocking a part of our lives, in the subconscious, the information is there. So we don't really need to know that consciously in order to be able to heal it. And the knowing part, it's nice to know, because in our mind, we like to understand, we like to have these explanations that, oh, I'm depressed because I'm carrying the grief from my grandmother. Oh, and I can let go of this grief. This makes sense. However, it's not necessary in order to be able to heal, because the information is there already. So when we choose to think about everybody, give them their place, they all belong. Think about that there are miscarriages and abortions in the family. There are many, and we're never going to know how many. But once we open this awareness and we include them, and with love, you belong and you're part of the family. Even if I don't know how many you were or to whom you belong, you're part of the family. So just by this expansion, this awareness, we are able to heal. And it's important that if we've had miscarriages and abortions, that we do make some healing, some inclusion, to remember them, to honor them, to always consider them as part of the family system. So the reason why we don't ask is because those could be traumas that our mother, grandmother, aunt, whoever is part of the family system is not ready to deal with. They are the ones that have to decide when to work with this aspect in their lives. If we start asking these questions, we may force them to open a door that they're not ready to open. And we need to respect the process of each person. So this is why we should not go asking everybody in the family system if what happened, if they know of anybody, or if they had this experience in their lives. We honor and respect their process and their privacy. And we just, when we are thinking about the family system, we think that there are others that we don't know, that we're not able to live. And we also give them their place. We also connect with them with love and say thank you for everything.
Wow, that's so much to think about. I mean, as we've touched on, there's no way that any of us don't have this in our family trees, because birth control is a relatively new thing. And women, I mean, they would just be pregnant over and over. If you look at your family trees, families would have 10, 15 kids. And if they didn't have that many, it's probably because they had either miscarriages or abortions. So none of us escape this. So is it really just as simple as acknowledging and honoring those who did not get born and live a full lives? Is that all we really need to do to heal the entanglements?
It's the first step, yes. Is it all? No. It will depend in each person, because we all have different systems. And even if we have siblings, we are all connected to different things. We may be connected to the same parts, but we also could be connected to different ancestors, different situations, different traumas of the past. So if there is a connection with somebody that had a lot of pain, had a lot of struggles, that everybody wanted this couple to have lots of babies, to carry the name of the family, and each time there was this loss, there was this heaviness, this pain, and then so that is going to be very different than somebody that had one miscarriage and that had the support of the family and was able to, maybe had a little bit of like stickiness, but was able generally to move on. So each experience is different, each person is different, each entanglement is different. So when we do this of opening our awareness, honoring and respecting, giving everybody their place, we are doing a huge step already. Are we hitting everything? I don't know, because we would have to see specific with each person, each experience. And the way that you're able to tell is that you look at your life. What's going on in your life? Are you able to enjoy life? Are you able to connect to gratefulness, to the love, to abundance, to health, to success? And this does not mean that are you able to not have problems, because problems are part of life. It's, the challenges, the difficulties. This is how we learn. This is how we are able to heal, to expand to a new level of awareness. So the question is, are you able to enjoy life even though you have problems, difficulties, illnesses? Because we will always have that. And if you're not able to, if you're stuck, if you're always having problems, then that is indication that they might be something that you're carrying from an entanglement from the family system, that it would be interesting for you to explore and work with it. However, this expansion of inclusion, giving everybody their place, honoring and respecting, deciding to enjoy life, accepting yourself, accepting everybody in your life. And accepting does not mean that if somebody did terrible things in their life or is still doing terrible things, we're not saying that it's okay. We're saying that we are letting go of the judgment and criticism. We don't know why that person is that way. If I had, let's say I have a grandfather that maybe committed a crime and did terrible things, instead of thinking, oh, this is horrible that I have this grandfather that committed all these things that he shouldn't have, instead of going to judgment and criticism, what we need to do with everybody is that, gee, I wonder what happened in his life, how much pain he experienced that took him to that situation and to do all that in his life. I'm not going to judge and criticize the actions, because I don't know if I had experienced the same things as he, how would I have reacted? And this is what we do. We're not excusing others. We're just understanding. We're just explaining. We're just knowing that there's a reason why everybody does the things that they do. And then we let go. We honor and respect, and we let go, and we decide to enjoy our life, letting go of what's not ours.
Right. Okay. Well, now you mentioned earlier that that sometimes, like a baby will be born maybe perhaps prematurely and die shortly after birth. What's the difference in how can I word this? the vibe that goes along with either an aborted pregnancy or a miscarriage where the baby doesn't come to full term and doesn't take its first breath, as opposed to a baby that lives a few hours or a week or whatever. Is there a difference in the healing process? Because these are two different scenarios, and I would think that it would be a different emotional experience for the mother.
Yeah. So the question is how the mother experienced the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what indicates what's going to be blocked in the system and what's not going to be blocked. And how the children, nieces and nephews, because we also connect to our aunts in the system, so we can also connect to their loss. So that's going to indicate how others are going to carry that or not. So the key, and this is why I was saying the most important part for us is as well to deal with our miscarriages and abortions if we've had them, because this is going to release the next generations, our children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews, so that they don't connect to ours. And when the baby is born, usually the parents have more support. So there's less of these entanglements that happen because they're able to process the loss in a better way. But the key is how the parents and specifically the mother experienced the loss. If she was able to accept the grief, to connect to those emotions, to feel them instead of, ignoring them, instead of rejecting them, instead of just hiding it. So that is going to be the key on how others are going to connect to it. And according to how our mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers experienced the loss, indicates how we are connecting to it.
Well, then, along those same lines, as I mentioned, if we look at our family trees, we can see that families were gigantic back then, and not many people had a lot of money, so there were a lot of mouths to feed, and it was difficult to have these large families. And I'm thinking specifically about one of my great grandmothers. She gave live birth 10 times, and only 4 of her children lived to adulthood. So she had 6 premature births where they died almost immediately after. And then she went for like 6 years without having any babies at all. And I'm going to assume that because she lost 6 babies right in a row to premature birth, that after that it was all miscarriages. And I wonder about her and women like her, where it would seem that, again, without birth control, getting pregnant and having so many mouths to feed, just the wear and tear on your body. If it was me, I would dread getting pregnant. And it feels like having so many miscarriages and having so much trauma on your own body would, have a ripple effect to the future generations. So aside from losing a baby, which is a tragic thing, what about the effect that it has on the mother, on their body, on their emotions, all the wear and tear that I just described?
It definitely affects. And sometimes what happens is that when we are doing these in time, the connections that we do from the moment of conception to the first years of our life, what we can do is that we connect to the pain, to the body, to this, what you were describing. And then we say, this was so much. I'm not going to experience it. I'm not going to have children. And then the way it reflects in our lives is that we want to have children. We try to have children and we can't. And that's because we made the decision that we weren't going to have children, because we weren't going to suffer the way that our great-grandmother suffered. So it affects different ways. It affects as well, but maybe then we decide, you suffered so much that I'm going to suffer as well during the pregnancies that I have, or with my children, or I'm going to have losses just the same way that you did. So it can affect many ways in our lives. And we don't know really how it affects until we see our life and what's going on. And if we do, usually we do constellation sessions to remove one aspect of our life where we're blocked. So it's until we do that session that we go deep and we find out really what connections we have. We don't know until that moment.
Okay. Well, if you choose to do a constellation session, would you come in with this specific concept in mind, or is this one of those things where when you show up for a session, what really needs to be worked on first steps forward and sort of trumps that question?
Usually is the client comes with something that they want to work on. Sometimes they come because, they say, I had a miscarriage and I want to work this because I know that this is important for my next children. And we work directly on that. But then sometimes the client comes with, I have a problem because I'm not able to have children. I have a problem because I'm not able to have a good relationship with my partner. I'm not able to maintain a job. I'm not able to have success. I mean, whatever there, or I don't get along with my mother, with my brother, with my sister, with my daughter. I mean, so the person comes with the issue that they want to work in life, with whatever they have stuck, with whatever they are not able, like I always say this, we need to flow in life. We need to be able to enjoy life and to be able to deal with the difficulties that we have in a way that we still are able to connect to life. So when we're stuck, where there's things that really don't allow us to be able to enjoy life, those are the things that we need to work on. And then we start the constellation and see what rises up. What we might think, I have this problem because my grandmother had many miscarriages. I'm for sure I have a connection. And it comes up that it's my grandfather from the other side of the family that had a completely different experience. Then this is what it's connected. I mean, we don't know really until we start doing the work.
Okay. So then I'm also wondering about, again, we're talking about the old days when abortion was a lot less safe, could often be extremely traumatic. What sort of ripple effect would that have on current generations if a great grandmother had a traumatic abortion?
It's similar to what I was saying before, that we can decide not to have children.
Mm-hmm.
With my teacher, when I was doing the constellation facilitation training, she mentioned often that what she was observing is that when there were doctors that carried abortions, sometimes the grandchildren of those doctors were not able to have babies. So it even affects that way. So it could affect in so many ways. And again, the most important key is how she experienced the situation. So maybe it was a very traumatic situation, painful, but she had the support of her partner. She had the support of her parents. She was able to honor and respect that baby and remember that even though they decided not to have the baby's part of the system and the baby will always belong. Then, it's like nothing gets stuck, nothing gets blocked, nothing, so it depends on how they experience the situation.
Okay. Well, then that brings up yet another question. I've got so many of them. If we've had an abortion in this current time, because there's so much divisiveness about whether it's right or wrong, whether it's legal, illegal, we're dealing with different situations than our ancestors were. So how do we, let's say that we were judged, many women will walk into a clinic and there are protesters screaming and yelling and calling them murderers. And I'm not placing any judgment on anything. I'm just stating fact. This is the way it happens for some women. If that happens to a woman in current times, how can they process any guilt that they might feeling, any anger, et cetera, so they don't pass it on to future generations?
Yeah. So what's important is to, just like we're doing the work here of acceptance, of letting go of judgment and criticism of our ancestors and everybody in the family system, that we honor and respect their decisions. We need to do this work with us as well. If we decided to have an abortion, whatever reason it was, at that moment, we decided that that was the best decision. And everybody has their own way of thinking, their own way of deciding if this is a good path or not, according to their beliefs, to the beliefs of the family system, to beliefs of the culture, to so many reasons. So we need to understand that that's their decision, that's their path, and that we're going to work with our situation. And if we feel guilt, guilt has a lot of different aspects. So guilt is helpful because when we make a mistake and when we hurt somebody else, we're going to feel guilty. So that guilt is telling us, it's important to have good relationships with others in society in order to survive. We live in society. So you hurt this person, this is why you're feeling this guilt. So this is telling us, oh, yeah, I hurt this person. I'm going to make amends. I'm going to say I'm sorry. I'm going to learn so that I do it again. And then once I do that, I'm able to say, thank you, guilt, for showing me how to, do things in a better way. So I'm able to let go of the guilt. Sometimes I'm stuck with the guilt because I'm getting guilt from an ancestor. And then this blocks me the ability to release my guilt. So guilt is helping us learn. But in the moment that we learn, in the moment that we decided that was the best decision, and that what we need to do in order not to get to the same situation, we have understood that, then we say thank you and we let go of the guilt. But when we can't, it's usually because we're carrying it for somebody else in the family system. So we need to do the work of letting go the emotions that we have from others in the family system. And then understanding, we're doing the best that we can. And the best that we can do in order to be able to heal our system, to heal our children, the ones that are coming after, if we have children after, is to let go of that guilt and to enjoy our life. And yes, if I felt some pain, I connect to the pain. I allow myself to feel the pain and to release it, instead of rejecting it, because it's when we reject the emotions that they get blocked in our system, in our body, and then it becomes even more difficult in the future. But when we accept those emotions, when we allow ourselves to feel them and choose to release them, then we're able to move on. And when we are able to move on and then enjoy our life, this enjoyment, this decision of enjoying life, no matter what, connects us with the healing, and the healing to the family system, to the ancestors, to everyone.
Right. Perfect. Thank you so much. This is a sort of a touchy conversation, and I so appreciate your openness and willingness to let's just talk about this. So I do appreciate this. Now, before we go any further in the conversation, I want to make sure that I mention your website. It's coachingandconstellations.com. Easy enough. If people were to visit you there, what would they find?
So I have a lot of information there. I have a lot of videos, and you will find also the link to my YouTube video, where I have tons of videos. I'm always, getting more videos out. And I have also online courses on demand that people can do on their own rhythm. I have things in Spanish and in English because I also speak Spanish. And I have the links if anybody wants to do a private session with me. I have also the events that I do. I do group events. At the moment, I'm doing them via Zoom. And hopefully beginning next year, I'll be doing in person as well. But all the information is there in my website.
Right, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Lisa. This, as I mentioned, has been a very, very touching and necessary conversation. But before we go, is there anything that we've left out that you want to make sure that we talk about? Something that I may have forgotten to ask you, or that you've got floating around in your head?
So I just want to say again, this emphasis of us enjoying life. We often think that our ancestors suffered and then we need to suffer like them. And it's a little bit, it happened this at the beginning of the pandemic, that I was having so many clients, like they were fine. And they were just like, they were not allowing themselves to enjoy life because there were so many people suffering. And it's like, if so many people are suffering, they need to connect to joy through us. We're all connected energetically. And it's the same with our ancestors. We often feel this heaviness of the suffering, of their struggles, of what they dealt with in life. So then it's like, it was so bad that how can I enjoy life? But it's the opposite. What they want is for us to enjoy life, to be able to do what they were not able to do. And it's through us doing that they connect to that they heal, that it liberates the whole system. So the best that we can do is to decide to enjoy our life to the fullest, the present moment, because the present moment is the only one that we have. So when we make this decision, it's this decision that brings that, like, the deep healing, and we connect with gratefulness to all that we have right now. And then even if we have problems and difficulties, we're able to enjoy the parts that we are able to have in this moment. And this brings the biggest healing to everybody in the family system.
So, Lisa, this has been a really fascinating conversation, but I understand that you also have a meditation that you'd like to offer.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Thank you for asking. So for the meditation, just keep your back straight, and then if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And then take a deep breath. And any thoughts that come to your mind, just notice them and let them go. It is a natural state of the mind to have thoughts coming all the time. You cannot stop them. So just let them go. And now you're going to connect to a strong light coming from up above, a light coming from source, from the divine, from love, from this greater intelligence, from however you want to call this energy that can help us, that can guide us, that can be with us here today for the best possible healing of you and your whole family system with what we're doing in this moment. And feel the light inside of you and feel it all around you, opening to the guidance, to the blessing. And now you're going to start connecting to your family system. Behind you, you're going to see your parents, your father on the right side and your mother on the left side. And if you did not know them, you just know that their presence is there. And behind them, you're going to see your grandparents. Behind your father on his right side, you're going to see his father. And on the left side, his mother. And the same for your mother. On her right side, you're going to see her father. And on the left side, her mother. And again, anybody you didn't know, you just know that their presence is there. Now behind them, you're going to see your great grandparents. The same way behind each person, on the right side, you see their father, and on the left side, their mother. Just know that they're there. And now, beside each person, you're going to see their siblings. There's a lot of people that you're connecting to, part of your family system. And open your awareness to the ones that were not able to be born. You don't need to know what generation they belong or how many there are. Just know that there are, that they belong, that they're part of the family. So honor and respect everybody, their experiences, their situations, their lives. Choose to let go of any judgment and criticism that you may have of anybody in the family system. Everybody belongs, so give them their place. And look at them. And internally say thank you. And especially to your ancestors. Say thank you for my life. And you can say, and I now choose life. I now choose to say yes to life, to abundance, to health, to beauty, to joy, to love, to success, to everything that life can give to me. I open myself and I allow this. I connect to this. I'm grateful for this. Now take a deep breath and start coming back to where you are, feeling your body, where you're sitting down. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Oh, thank you. That was beautiful. I could feel their presence. I so appreciate your sharing that with us. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Part of the healing is just the process of starting to shift our awareness and make decisions. And this is what we're doing in this meditation.
Right. Well said. Thank you for that. And thank you again for joining us today, Lisa. This has been wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
All right. I want to remind everyone I've been talking with Lisa Miron, and I want to thank everyone for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this conversation in the Ancestral Healing Summit.